are half the population. We earn, we save, and we endure. But do we invest? Money Matters for Her is an initiative by mutual funds Sahi Hai for setting a stage where we celebrate women and discuss their representation in the world of finance. Not very long ago, the terms finance, investment, money, they were all assumed to be the monopoly of men. Women were taught to take a back seat while the men of the house handled the steering wheel. The decades turned and so did the idea of money and women. Celebrating women pioneers in the coveted fields, we inaugurate Money Matters for Her, where we talk about investments for the women, by the women. To inaugurate the sessions, we could not have thought of a better person. She's a leader, she's a pioneer, and an iconoclast. She has led major financial roles for over 2 decades. She's an educator and an investor. She has this enviable energy and what an impeccable taste in books. She has a distinguished sense of humor and, of course, an exquisite taste in Bollywood. You have seen her on television, you have heard her on podcasts, you have read her, and you have definitely followed her. We welcome Ms. Lakshmi Iyer today on behalf of all of the viewers. She is the CIO of Debt and Head Products at Kotak Mahindra Asset Management Company Limited. She has won many accolades in her tenure that spans over 2 decades, and she has been recognized as one of the top 25 most influential women in asset management in Asia by Asia Investor. Lakshmi, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule and joining us.
Thank you so much, Zinia. But you know, by emphasizing on 2 decades, you just made me feel like a furniture. But I must hasten to add that I am an antique piece and not a furniture. So
well, honestly, that was a compliment because evidently you are reverse aging, which I think is fantastic. But Lakshmi, let's talk about your very interesting Twitter account. You know, I stumbled upon your Twitter. It says, of course, it has a bouquet of very interesting tweets, especially your pick of the day, which I think is excellent. You make investments sound like so much fun. I wish I had a mentor like you because I swear I would have started way earlier on my investment journey, much, much sooner. So thank you for that. But that's leading to my question. Lakshmi, anchoring from your tweets, tell me, what made you the Lakshmi Iyer? I mean, there has to be a story behind the enigma that we see.
So the story goes back 2 decades, as you rightly observed, where a friend of mine actually was supposed to go for this interview to a firm called Credence Analytics.
Okay.
And if you know this movie called Chennai Express,
Yes.
Shah Rukh Khan says Goa is on, Goa is not on.
Yes.
And for her, it was something similar. Goa is on and Goa is not on. She was supposed to go to Goa. And then finally, when she decided, she calls me up, can you fill up on my behalf? And that was my vacation period. And I said, really, you want me to go for an interview for financial services? And I barely know the spelling of financial services. She said, nahi, sirf interview jaake aa jao, kuch karne ki zarurat nahi hai. And then anyways, you'll fail. I said, okay, I'll go. Doesn't matter. So that's when I would say my first stint with a financial market interview actually started. I went to this firm. I was very candid. I told them, look, I am actually a proxy for a friend of mine. They asked me, what do you want to do? All that happened. And then I muffed up very badly, to be very honest. And then I told my friend, as you rightly said, this is not going to happen. And the next thing I get a call from the HR is that you're selected. I said, on what basis? They said, no, you have the acumen and I think we can go ahead with it. And that was for the role of a research analyst. So I think therein started the roots of finance, or the financial kida as they call it. And then from there was no looking back, and then it was Kotak, and Kotak is my second job as we speak, and yeah, so far so good.
Wow, that's so interesting, right? Because it's so amazing where life takes us. But I'm still curious to know, was there a motivation behind you joining the mutual funds industry? Consciously, subconsciously?
I would say a bit of both, because when I was with Credence, you know, fintech is now a buzzword today.
Yes.
But at that point in time, I'm talking about 98, 99, I was one of the few people within Credence who actually understood finance and technology. So my software team did understand markets, and the market team, of course, was completely oblivious to technology. So I used that opportunity to marry the two. And then when that point in time, when Credence actually forayed into treasury solutions, the technology one, Kotak happened to be one of our potential clients where we had to do site visits. And that time it was a company called KMCC, Kotak Mahindra Capital Company. And therein, the excitement of trading the markets, tracking the markets, ups and downs started off. And then there's an opportunity which came into the mutual fund. And then I said, there's no looking back. In fact, I told the team at Credence that, look, I can't leave. It's a very small team, right? Back in 97, 98. And I said that I'm taking a sabbatical. So I go on a sabbatical and see it's 20 years plus and the sabbatical is still on from Credence.
Wow, the sabbatical never ends. But I love your story, and you know what I love about what you've spoken about so far is the word excitement, because I can sense it in the tone of your voice. That's literally how you live life, right? My learning already has begun, and that is excitement. Excitement is the key word. See, because no matter who this person is we're referring to, who needs to learn or probably just start investing, I think excitement is a great place to begin with. So many a times, you know, we're stuck with, nahi, pehle mujhe technology seekhna hai, fir mujhe market seekhna hai, fir mujhe ye karna hai, fir mujhe wo karna hai. But if you could just start with a little bit of excitement coupled with other things, I think that's a great way to begin your investment journey, right? Just like you've started your
Absolutely.
journey in
It's a
life.
journey half covered, I would say, and then the rest half just goes on.
Absolutely. And I was thinking, you know, we've witnessed a growing trend of women right now that are investing, that are joining the finance related workforce in the recent years, just like you mentioned. But it must have been almost uncanny for you back then, right? What do you recall was your calling before all of this happened?
See, you're right. You know, you said, you know, half the population we represent. And the reality is in financial services, we aren't even close to 1/3. We are way, way lower than that. We're in, I would say, mid-teens or high teens.
Right.
These are global numbers.
Right.
And these numbers, maybe 2 decades back, was even lower, much lower, very deplorable. And at that point in time, you realize when you get into it, yes, it is intimidating. I won't be you know, honest if I say that, oh, everything was hunky-dory, everything was very beautiful, bed of roses. That's not fair.
Right.
But the calling is that, oh, you know, you are in the minority. Here is an opportunity. Why not give it a shot? You know, Dil picture mein ek dialogue hai, pati to pati varna rakhi ready. So there's no downside to it, right? So
Yes,
there's no
it's a
harm trying.
win-win.
Yeah, there's no harm trying. So go for it.
So Lakshmi, you have been one of those few women who have survived in the industry for so long. I'm thinking, can we take your story and deduce maybe a lesson of perseverance? Because, you know, when you talk about the markets, that's what you need, right? You need patience, you need perseverance, because you have to know and believe that long term pays better. Is that true?
Oh, without a doubt, I would say, see, a rolling stone gathers no moss. I think that's very time tested for now. Second is, if you have the passion, if you have the conviction to stick on, then it's completely rock on kind of a scenario. Nothing is really going to stop you unless you yourself feel that there is something which is going to pull you back, you know, some apprehension, some intimidation, or some sort of a feeling. Whether it's in your career journey or whether it's in your investment journey, the rules are no different. So I think stick on for the longer, as much as you can. Longevity is the name of the game. And trust me, the rewards are pretty encouraging.
So, you know, some days when we get out of bed and your feet hit the floor and, you know, like they say, the devil says, oh, she woke up. What happens about those days when you don't feel like that? How do you deal with that?
See, these days, COVID has taught you, if you don't feel like it, just work from home. And then you can switch on and switch off whenever you want. Not like literally the camera, or, you know, just hop into the kitchen and make something for yourself and humor yourself with some chocolates. I love chocolates. Chocolates cheer me up.
That's
So they put in the, you know, the required dose of sugar in me. So for a teetotaler, what else is a high? So these are some of the ways that you have to keep yourself on. And I believe that if you are motivated, and motivation does not need to come from outside, it has to come from within. And if that is there, and I truly walk the talk. So as much as an excitement, I can say TGIF, thank God it's Friday, I do say thank God it's Monday. So, you know, it's very important, because if you start looking like a bit down, drooping shoulders, saying that, oh, Monday is the day, how do I go to work? It's a non-starter.
Yes, so I think basically, thank God it's a day, right? It's a day, it's a new day to begin with. I want to ask you, what's your favorite feature about mutual funds, and tell us why. I think this is very crucial. If you were to advise our viewers to invest in mutual funds because of a particular feature, what would that be?
See, there are many, many features, but if I try to give you an analogy, have you seen this movie Dirty Picture?
Yes.
So Vidya Balan says what sells is entertainment, entertainment, entertainment.
Yes.
Whereas in mutual funds, it's liquidity, liquidity, liquidity. Just imagine whichever asset class you want to own, whether it is gold, whether it's fixed income, whether it's equities, it does not matter. You have, and now it's silver, you have liquidity because of the open-ended nature of the funds. Of course, you have other category funds as well, but bulk of the industry is actually patronized by open-ended funds. Now, where can you want to own real estate? You want to own REITs? You have all of that via the mutual fund route. So while there are many features, there's convenience, there's ease of understanding, all of that, but I think liquidity scores right there on top.
So हम इंडियंस हैं, हमारे तो खून में रगों में बॉलीवुड दौड़ता है, जैसे आपके खून में और मेरे खून में. And we have so many investment instruments, right? But if you were to equate mutual funds with someone in Bollywood, with a Bollywood star, who would that be? Why?
So I would say रिश्ते में तो हम तुम्हारे बाप लगते हैं, नाम है mutual fund. So now you got the answer.
Yes, Shahenshah.
Right.
Absolutely. But this Shahenshah is gender agnostic. Let's be very clear about that.
No, I can also call myself Shahenshah, right? Despite being the female gender, so it's fine.
Absolutely, yes. Tell me, have you been successful in converting or influencing your family members to start investing in mutual funds? Because as far as the rest of us are concerned, we're listening to you all the time. We're all ears. We take advice from, things that you tweet. You're on every public platform talking about it. What about your family?
Of course, I mean, charity begins at home. So I walk the talk quite literally. Two highs for me as far as the family is concerned. One is my mom, who always thought that buying those gold sillies and those chote sikke, that is the way of life for Akshay Tritiya, for Dhanteras. And I can very confidently and proudly say that now she does only gold ETF. And it required a lot of convincing because she doesn't get to see her gold, feel her gold, touch her gold. But that's a high point, and you are contributing in some sense because you're not really aggravating the gold import demand. So that's one positive. Second is my dad. My dad is over 80 years right now, and he still has his money in equities through SIPs. And it was a tough ask again for him, for his kind of a mindset, salaried person, old school thought. It's only bank fixed deposits. That was his dharma, I would say. To break that dharma and to get him out of that was a Herculean task. And the results have shown. And when he sees his account statement, of course, there have been ups and downs. There were reds in the portfolios. He would track his statement like by the month, by the day, and say that, oh, because of you, this is in the red. But that was just the teething trouble, as I call it.
Yes.
And then, since then, there's been no looking back. So yes, I have people in the family. This is the closest example I could think of, which I thought is very relevant for the viewers because they are, as I said, octogenarians, and my mom is 60 plus. So it's very important for them that if their mindset can change, we are lesser mortals.
Yes, absolutely. Lakshmi, you timed your experience in life as you have seen 10 years Indian sovereign yields at 11.5% and at sub 5% in your career span so far. That's what you said. That's what your professional profile says. Of course, as we all know, Lakshmi also celebrates her daily tweets with headings like the capital puncture, the gold rush, and she has this unique way of narrating financial trends by syncing them to Bollywood songs and dialogues and personalities, as you've already been listening to her. Such a refined way of, giving finance gyan through her large reservoir of perfectly rhyming words. So, Lakshmi, tell us, what is behind this unusual jugalbandi of Bollywood songs and finance? Is this how you see finance, or is this just your unique way of spreading finance literacy?
See, this is clearly a way to connect with the audience. If I say cutie, what does the Aam Aadmi think? A non-financial person, they would say, oh, it's a CUTI, cutie. When I say cutie, I'm talking about quantitative tightening. So, you know, food to me is poison to another person. When I realized that, and I realized this a while back, or just when I started getting on to Twitter, which is a one-to-many communication conversation, I realized it's important to connect with the audience in the way they like. So if I want to serve you a dosa, I can't say, you know, a nice pan girdle, millet, rice soaked with lentils, served with some clarified butter. I just want to say, I'm giving you ghee roast, ghee dosa. So I think that connect or that communication, I realized in the industry was lacking. So I just try to plug and play. It's very simple. And I am a die-hard filmy. As much as I love finance, I love films too.
Yes.
Of course, I did miss the big screen in the last 2 years, but I'm back to where I belong to. So I think connecting finance and film gave me a reason to watch more movies. And of course, apart from the entertainment value, I thought if I can create that financial awareness, and trust me, Bollywood sells. It does really, you know, have that much needed appeal, and you're able to get your point across. So why not?
So you have your own 300 crore club on Twitter, right? But Lakshmi, you will agree with me when I say that money can be intimidating, especially for women. You know, women have subconsciously, we've been raised to be more careful, more secure, to, you know, have more caution. There are expert multitaskers, which we all are, but we also hesitate before taking on financial risk. How do you see gender roles affect the idea of investment?
See, there's always a first time Zenia, and I tell this to everyone, you know, just look up on Google, you know, when you Google the top chefs, you see there are so many male names out there. And I think the conventional wisdom or the conventional thought process is like that, oh, you know, cooking is only a women's territory. But that's so not true. So if that male mentality actually broke that barrier and actually got into the kitchen, why can't a woman break that barrier and get into the boardroom or get into the markets? Absolutely. I think it's all about that first move. And there's always a first time, whether it's for swimming, and you're swimming all the time in the markets, right? Because there are ups, there are downs, there are waves, there are low tides, there are high tides. So if swimming is not difficult, if you learn it, whenever, whatever. I don't know how to swim well, by the way, let me tell you, because I somehow have this, I'm not water phobic, but I think I might drown even in a swimming pool. So that's a mindset which you need to tame. So if something intimidates you, please tame it. And it's so important. And again, as I said, I'm walking the talk. Unfortunately, in the last 2 years, because of this pandemic, the swimming pools were shut. So I could not really tame my intimidation really fast. But I'm back at it. So I think these are all excuses. And because I'm saying this out of experience, and I've done quite a few of these, markets were never intimidating to me, but there were other things which I've tried to conquer. And yeah, I am a live example. And it's not rocket science. And I'm not a scientist.
Fantastic. Okay, so that's my takeaway. It's not rocket science. You're not a scientist. And I don't know about the pool and the water, Lakshmi, but as far as markets are concerned, you are an international global swimming champion already. You know, Lakshmi, while I'm talking to you, I sense how beautifully you portray, you embody, and you're a living example of turning the tables, right? Have you experienced it in real life? Does your son come to you for financial advice?
He doesn't come to me for financial advice, but I know all the time he's tracking the markets. I think that is my small contribution that I have done. So in the last 2 years, especially when it was predominantly work from home, for example, he tried to listen to a lot of things, especially the webinars, the sessions, not in totality, obviously, because the playful mind is still there and these are those horrible teens that you have to grapple with. But yes, he does follow the markets. He asks questions. So after monetary policy, there's a question. After budget, there's a question.
Wow.
So while it's not nirvana time, but I would say it's more than the tip of the iceberg. So yes, it's not a bad influence at all.
Yes, I think there are some things that have, some great things that have come out of, you know, the COVID era that we've all lived with. And I think this is one of those. My nephew, just like your son, has started to track markets at the age of 12.
Wow.
And will have regular conversations with me now about what I'm going to buy when I grow up, which stock I'm going to invest in. which I think is absolutely phenomenal.
Without a doubt.
So, Lakshmi, thanks to you, we've learned that from you as a family. So, what then would be your mantra for the women who are watching us today? What would be that perfectly rhymed Lakshmi style Bollywood motivation for our viewers?
Oh, you're putting a lot of pressure on me. I
No, come on, that's your territory. There's no pressure.
No, so, you know, as you were talking, you know, I just watched this movie last week, Gangubai Kathiawadi. Have you seen this
Yes,
movie?
I just got it 2 days
So
ago.
there is an amazing dialogue which Alia Bhatt says, जब शक्ति, संपत्ति और समृद्धि तीनों ही औरतें हैं, which means strength, शक्ति, संपत्ति, which is wealth, and समृद्धि, which is good sense, तीनों ही औरतें हैं. I think that is a very, very strong message. So you need to have the willpower, you need to have the perseverance, and most importantly, you need to have the strength to overcome challenges and your own mental biases. I think that's the most important thing for you to take a step. A, to plan your finances, but even before that, take control of your investments. I think that's very, very important. And see, being in control is a wonderful thing. Yes. I don't understand why women shy away from all the wonderful things in life, or at least as far as this is concerned. So I think it's very important to invoke that strength in you and go for it. It doesn't matter. I keep saying, you know, it's not about winning or losing. It's the joy, it's the experience of making money, understanding, being in the know and feeling empowered. I think it's very, very important.
Absolutely. And I think that's, while that stands true, whatever you've just said, but for anyone that's listening to us right now, especially the women, that is definitely going to change. I can already experience a shift as we speak. So, Lakshmi, before we wrap up, I want to speak to you directly. I want you rather to speak directly to the women that are watching us, the women who have saved, you know, but they hesitate to invest. The homemakers, the graduates, the late bloomers, the early birds, the mothers, the daughters, and the likes. What would be Lakshmi's words of wisdom to them?
It's very important to understand, and again, this is Bollywood that I'm talking about, okay? Whether it's a Suraj Barjatia movie where there's typically a happy ending, it's a family movie, or if it's like a villain-oriented movie, there is a villain in the real life. Likewise, there is a villain or a monster in the real life, and that villain is the villain called inflation. It keeps eating into your savings, trust me, and it's a very horrifying feeling. It's like a tooth decay, and then you have to do a root canal. So why come to that stage? When you have asset classes within the financial fraternity to make that money earn enough and slay that villain called inflation, just invoke it. Just purely being invested in traditional mode of investments may not really help you slay that villain. So it's very, very important to have the asset allocation, the right mix of equities, fixed income, all of these in your portfolio to ensure that your portfolio also gets a happy ending. So that's my message to all of you.
Wow, that's phenomenal. Lakshmi, जाते जाते अभी जो चल रहा है हमारे फाइनेंसेस में, हमारे इंडस्ट्री में, हमारे कंट्री में, इस सिचुएशन के ऊपर, सी बॉलीवुड इज ऑल सिचुएशनल, राइट? इट्स ऑल इमोशन, सॉन्ग, ड्रामा. What is the song or dialogue that comes to your mind as of now?
So, a couple of things. One is, I always believe, okay, and I'm a big fan of this movie called Three Idiots, and I love the song All Is Well. And I always say, all is well, all is well.
All is well.
Okay. You have to be like that. You know, the Chaukidar could not see, and no one knew that he could not see. But the comfort and the feeling that people had when he said all is well is definitely soothing. So I think keep that in mind. There will be ups and downs. There will be a चढ़ता सूरज, but वो धीरे धीरे ढलता भी रह जाएगा. So it's very important that despite all these ups and downs, despite all these volatilities, I think the way to go is forward. We are a fantastic, an economy which is doing exceedingly well. Yes. We are poised to maybe, double our GDP over the next 5-7 years, maybe even shorter. It's important to stay put. तो लगे रहो, डटे रहो, अपना टाइम आएगा.
Okay, so if I were to say SIP is a great instrument for investing, your opinion?
I, in my personal portfolio, have only SIPs. दहेज में मिलता है कोटक बैंक, that's ESOPs, but apart from that, this is my only tested way, because I realize, and I think many viewers will also realize, that when you are, in my case, money management is my profession. When you're managing money for people, for investors, you don't have time to take care of your own investment. So what you do is systematic investment plan brings about that discipline. Irrespective, it's auto mode. You just have to give an ECS mandate. It goes absolutely auto. So it's fine. It's absolutely okay. So I think it's a wonderful instrument, at least that has made a big difference to my portfolio.
Lakshmi, as per you, what is the difference between a male investor and a female investor?
Koi nahi. I'm telling you, if cooking is gender agnostic, if sports is gender agnostic, I'm telling you investments are also gender agnostic. The one factor which I would like to add is, you know, a woman very beautifully morphs herself from being born as a daughter, you know, to grow into a sibling, as a sister, or, you know, to someone. Then she gets married, so she becomes a spouse or a wife. Then she becomes a mother. And she sometimes changes her surname also. Sometimes she changes her name also.
Yes.
So a woman so beautifully morphs herself into all of these roles so seamlessly, so effortlessly. So that's that added zing, I would say, that a woman brings to the table in terms of doing a multitasking. She also has that added EQ, that emotional quotient, which allows you to be pragmatic and take practical decisions. So I think all of these go to making of being a money manager, or, you know, the key ingredients, or among the key ingredients to go into money management. So I think, yes, that is a great differentiator, which probably, I'm not saying that men don't, men of course don't do all these, the ones which I said earlier. They don't have to shift houses unless, you know, it's a very different mindset, or those are exceptions. So I think these are something which really keep women apart. So there is a desperate need, I would say, to get more women into the investment fraternity.
Lakshmi, you've given us, you know, some brilliant tips, and you've given us some great direction through this conversation. Now, can you tell us examples of women, maybe in your organization or otherwise, who have found empowerment through investment?
See, I think when women join the workforce, and if it's financial services, not all of them really start off investing or have had investments prior. But once they enter into the world of finance, whether it's money management, whether it's banking, insurance, wherever they are, they get initiated into the world of finance. It's the aura, right? When you see people around, it's like playing Holi. Holi is a festival of colors. You might say, I get scared of colors, I don't like to play. But once you are in that arena where there is rain dance, there's organic color flowing, you say, it's organic color, okay, I'm fine. Let that come onto me. So you might just say, tika laga do ya kuch laga do. But it's about the aura. So once that happens, there is no looking back. So I think that's what I've realized when women join our organization and they are in the midst of money managers making that difference. It has a very different rub-off effect. One example in personal life which I want to give you is my maid, you know, who's been with me now for what, almost 20 years plus. Her daughter is an engineer. And she started very small, and that too because I kept pushing her, you know, do an SIP. She doesn't know what SIP is. So I just started on her behalf and just wanted her to continue. And she, touchwood, had, you know, reasonable good monies for herself, because I told her, you don't want your daughter to do what you're doing. And she was very clear about it. And now her daughter is an engineer, and trust me, she has quit every work, whichever she was doing. She's continued only my work because she attributes her daughter's success to me. It's not because of me. I was just a small nudge. You know, I was that push for the bungee jump. She took the plunge, she took that leap of faith, and now she realized that wealth creation for her daughter, which was the goal she had, her education, was possible. So I think these are, I would say, things which you realize that when you can make that difference, it's an altogether different feeling, and that feeling cannot be explained. It has to be felt.
Absolutely. And what, you know, you just gave us a story of empowerment, and talking about that, tell us, how does Lakshmi the investor plan for Lakshmi the traveler and Lakshmi the shopper?
See, I believe, Zinia, all of us have 24 hours, okay, in a day. So you have to max it out. And when you invest, when you see wealth creation, when you see that journey, and if you are not fickle-minded, if you are not getting guided by greed and fear as emotions, then you have allocations for everything. It's like a Guju Thali. You know, when you go to a Guju Thali, you see the guy placing, he will never place the papad on the right hand side. He will never place the achar in the center. He has a khacha for everything.
Yes.
If he's serving you amras, he knows where to keep the amras. So I think there is a khacha for everything. So for me, I'm a die-hard movie buff. I'm a foodie and I love traveling. When I travel, I make connections and those connections teach you. Because I am a lifelong learner, you know, as much as you say the markets teach you, you are forever a learner. So I'm a student of the markets. So when I travel, I actually get to meet with a lot of people. And that experiences culminate into a very different equation. And this, you need to do it. And to travel, of course, you need money. And to have the money, as I said, if inflation is killing all of it, then you need to try to beat that. So that's how we link it all together.
तो लक्ष्मी बताओ, रिस्क है तो इश्क है?
See, Zinia, calculated risk zaruri hota hai. I think that's very important. And mutual funds are one such vehicle which allow you to diversify your risk. So risk hai to ishq hai is fine, but andhadhun risk theek baat nahi hai. So I think that is what the investor has to keep in mind. And when you have such a wonderful instrument called the mutual fund or a vehicle called mutual fund, which allows you to live the risk that you want to embrace. If you like very, very conservative kind of a mindset, there is a category for you. If you are, you know, high-end octane entity, there is a category for you and there is a mixed breed also. So I think keep that in mind and not just get carried away, you know, by the fact that, investments are only risky. That's a myth. You need to learn to diversify to be able to mitigate these potential risk creators.
Fantastic. And my final question for you, Lakshmi, tell me, are diamonds truly a woman's best friend?
I don't know, Zinia. You're asking the right question to the wrong person because as you observe, I neither wear diamonds nor I wear gold. I'm a very typical woman who from day one only invested in ETFs of gold. But I can say investments can be your best friend.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, Lakshmi, for you, Lakshmi, thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure, of course, but it's also an honor to be seated here and to have this conversation with you, which is going to, like I said earlier, make a tremendous shift. And I think it's just going to leave all of our audiences, especially the women over here, say, once more, once more. But nahi milega once more, that's all we have. Lakshmi, that was incredible. Once again, thank you very much. And I would also like to thank our viewers. Thank you so much for tuning in to our session. I hope that today's session must have inspired you to take control of your finances and to invest wisely. This was one of the first conversations in the many sessions that are to follow. I hope to meet you at the next session and we will together continue to understand the perspective of investments of our pioneers and leaders because we together can invest better and grow together.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.